The 6.5 is back and we're talking serverless technologies. Dan, it is great to see you, my friend. This conversation is going to be great because we have talked about AWS serverless for the prior 2 years. At reInvent 22, we talked about serverless at the product management level. And then at 2023 reInvent, we got to talk to Nick Kuhl, the GM. That's amazing. We are working up the stack here. We must be doing something right, I guess.
Yeah, it's a good time, Pat, for a stack joke, right? Because when you talk about development, you gotta make a joke about working up or down the stack. But yeah, look, anytime we have the chance to talk about the development of applications and then all the important integrations that take place between developers and of course infrastructure, it opens up the door for a wonderful conversation. We've had many with the folks at AWS, and I'm excited about another one here today.
I know, and that thing seems like a great time to bring in Holly, the Vice President of Serverless Compute. Holly, great to see you.
Thank you. It's great to be here. And I'm going to add my own stack joke. We're going to pop the stack.
Ooh, that's going to be good. And I'm going to have to relay that to my son and be like, hey, what do you think? Share that with all your buddies in college. No, but seriously, it's been a really interesting time here and discussions with you. And typically, a lot of those discussions have been kind of like separate, right? We talk about ECS, we talk about Fargate, Lambda, event-driven architectures, really looking at it as distinct and separate services. But now we're here to talk about the strategic alignment, strategic significance of AWS serverless as an operational model.
That's right. And, you're here talking to me today, and those services have all been combined in under my leadership. And so I work across the space with those leaders every day. And it's something that we really talk a lot about is how do these products work side by side? ECS and ECS Fargate in particular is a great container orchestrator for serverless operating model. Lambda has been well known for its function as a service. And then, of course, they operate really well with event bridge and step functions. And so we've combined these all together, and my team sits down and thinks about this deeply on an ongoing basis.
By the way, I think there's a collective cheering in the customer section as they're watching this. And I've always wanted to see the collective nature of it. And, some customers, love singular products, but as I think we get bigger, as enterprises get bigger and bigger and they increase their capabilities, they want to see a holistic strategy across all of these. So thumbs up, and we're only 2 or 3 minutes in here so far.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, my instinct is to ask her a question about that mountain of books behind her, but I don't know if we have enough time. So what about a question about Kubernetes? How do you feel about that, Holly?
Yeah. So we support Kubernetes and EKS as well. We try to support customers in what they're trying to achieve. And some customers do choose Kubernetes as their model, but we also have our serverless model as well. And, with ECS and Lambda and step functions and Event Bridge, we feel like we have a lot of flexibility to really help customers build more faster. And when I think about what are our products, we have a vision inside of our product portfolio, and it's about delivering availability and security and cost efficiency for customers better than they can for themselves. And the reason why we want to do that is to remove all of that off of customers so that they can build quickly and bring those ideas to production, and then really rely on us, AWS, to deliver all those fundamentals underneath for our customers. And so they're just not having to think about that on a day in, day out basis.
I love it. Dan just jumps right in there.
Well, I was almost I was gonna like dig in on that, but she did such a good job. Sometimes it's like, I think she read my mind. I was gonna be like, tell me about AWS serverless and Kubernetes. All I had to say was Kubernetes, and it was like, boom, and then she went.
She's literally off to the races. Now, this is great. So I believe this is the 10th anniversary of Lambda. happy birthday. I hope you got Lambda a birthday cake and everybody blew out the candles, or Lambda blew out. I don't think there's somebody named Lambda, but anyway, just work with me on this one. So serious question coming up. How has Lambda positively impacted your customer and workloads? What is the metric that they've looked at? Is it faster time to market? Is it simplicity? Is it something different?
Yeah, so it is faster time to market, and then also getting that those underlying fundamentals that I was talking about without having to do the engineering themselves, which of course helps drive that faster time to market. In terms of metrics, the ongoing growth with millions of active customers and 10 trillion or more invokes per month is really showing the growth of our customers on Lambda. And that's, that's the 10-year anniversary. You're going to hear a lot about it throughout the year because we're really excited about that as well. But we continue to just drive innovation back into Lambda. And, we've expanded the product and the product capabilities on Lambda every single year. And I've been with Lambda for more than 6 years now. And, we're just working on that all the time.
It's interesting that it's the new stuff is always great. And 10 years ago, obviously Lambda was new, but also something having longevity is good. And I think a lot of enterprises, before they jump into something, like to see something that's been tested by many customers, having billions of invokes. And I'm sure that's not annually, that there's a lot bigger number for that, but it gives them a peace of mind.
Yeah, and we have seen that in terms of how customers tend to start working with Lambda. A lot of times they'll start off kicking the tires. They'll use kind of back office jobs. It's a classic use case. But then we see customers over time who move to really that serverless operational model or serverless first. And what we've seen is this pivot from the old days where it was merely kind of like back office jobs to now it is their primary way of developing, their primary operating model. And they come in and they're like, okay, I'm going to build everything serverlessly because of the operational model that they like, and they'll build it all on Lambda. And then if it's not a fit for Lambda, then they'll go back and they'll build it on ECS Fargate. But it's really supporting kind of that lower operational model that helps them build faster and put less into kind of day in and day out operations.
I know you love all your children the same, but I do believe ECS is celebrating its 10th anniversary too. So, if you're going to have a cake for Lambda, you must have one for ECS.
Well, maybe it'll be a cake and a pie or something because, you have to make each child feel special. So.
That is
You're definitely a parent. Yes, absolutely.
Yes. Carrot cake and chocolate cake. We'll figure it out. But
you're not a middle child, right? I think that's how it goes. But so AWS serverless, right? It's changing. It's the way applications are architected, Holly. It used to be all about being kind of confined to the infrastructure that you own. And, now you can go serverless and you can be event driven. How are your customers, starting to think about using this event driven architecture to develop applications differently? And what, EDA services, are you guys offering to meet their needs?
Yeah. So you noted my book collection back there,
We
and
did.
we can kind of pull it back to software engineering principles, highly cohesive systems, loosely coupled, event-driven architectures, all of distributed systems. And what you see is that customers are really relying on us to build a lot of those capabilities, and they're able to leverage them and reuse them. Again, great software engineering principle, and then build the loosely coupled integrations and the highly cohesive code that stitches those systems all together. And so what we're trying to do is provide all of the systems like with step functions and event bridge, and then, kind of all the engineering best practices underneath Lambda or ECS, so that really it comes down to customers building their highly cohesive code that's really unique to their business, and not having to kind of build all that boilerplate. And that's really what we're providing. Like, we're building and managing all the boilerplate and the best practices for distributed cloud engineering.
Yeah, but this is something that's really changing the game pretty significantly. You know, in your role as part of the leadership, you're speaking to a lot of the customers now, right? So you're starting to get a sense, but everything from time to market to the ability to develop for this AI transformation. I'm sure we're going to get to that later. Gosh, Pat, believe it? We made it like 10 minutes into a conversation. I don't think we'd said AI yet,
No, I
but I
know.
have to imagine that this event-driven architecture approach is going to become more and more important as companies are moving to more, diverse infrastructure, diverse compute, and then, different development environments. You guys are really enabling them by creating this kind of technology that's going to streamline it all for them.
Yes, and that's exactly right. I mean, again, it's going back to kind of those event-driven building blocks. And one of the things that we really hear a lot from customers is that you can easily pull out one of those building blocks that's unique to their business, and then plug a new one in, and you're not opening up and cracking your entire system's architecture. It's like you have something you're trying to do, it's very discrete, and then, say you're building something that is for an application, and it could be a Gen AI related application. Today you have it doing one thing, you pull that one thing out and you put that new thing in, and it's very easy to make this kind of pluggable systems, and you can do that everywhere. And we also hear from customers who are in very highly regulated industries, and especially when they're in highly regulated industries, the thing that you're just pulling out one little thing and not cracking open the entire box helps them tremendously with their speed of innovation, because they're not having to go back and re-verify every single piece of a working system. It's just one little piece.
So you have customers using the entire serverless suite. Some of them might use, an ECS or a Fargate or a Lambda event driven. How are customers or how does the portfolio integrate different applications together? Is it like people use with iPaaS and APIs? I know it's not APIs necessarily like you would in iPaaS, but is it something similar?
We do see where, and if you think about the interface, a lot of the interfaces are APIs, and that's
Okay.
really what you're pulling away is put a simple API in front, and then you can hook together your APIs.
Excellent.
Yeah,
Good answer, by the way.
sometimes it's just it's quick and to the point. Look, we live in a world where more people watch TikToks. We've got to figure out how to get things out into the wild
And it
quickly.
has to be 20 seconds, right?
We can actually take that cutout and just answer that question. How are they using it? iPaaS, silly, it's APIs. But I do want to now. I started you up in my last question, Holly, and I'm going to take us back there. But all right, Gen AI. Okay. We know, and of course, AWS is doing a lot of great innovation. Both Patrick and I have published a number of different research pieces and have both been very positive in terms of the overall AWS approach. But let's talk specifically about serverless. If you're trying to develop a generative AI workload and you require serverless infrastructure, how's your team, how's AWS helping your customers get that done?
Yeah, well, so I think there's a couple of different pieces here. One is I will go back to, it's early and there's a lot of iteration happening. There's going to be a lot of changes in this space over time, and the ability to take apart and put back together and build applications really, really quickly is key. And then we continue to build integrations into our services. If you think about back at reInvent, we launched a integration with step functions and Bedrock, and you'll continue to see us look at integrating new services through APIs as the space evolves. And then last but not least is, we'll continue to look at, we do have a compute offering in our serverless, and we'll continue to look at how best we serve Gen AI capabilities through compute as well.
So I have to ask, this might be one of these 15-second responses, so consider this a follow-up. Does it meet the bar for scalable and optimized serverless services when it comes to what you're creating with Gen AI? When a lot of enterprises are looking to create or create a generative AI application, they want to make sure it's fully scalable, and they want to make sure it's optimized for generative AI. And I'm just wondering, will those be checkboxes when you develop Gen AI serverless services?
It's certainly from the standpoint of scalable, that is one of the fundamental underpinnings of serverless, and that we scale up on demand as your workload demands is definitely like that. That is a kind of a starting point, and it does tie back to those fundamentals that we were talking about earlier.
Excellent.
So what about, I'm going to pivot just a moment, because with all the growth around AI, there's another sub theme that's become more and more in the mainstream, and that's security, Holly.
Yes.
When you're thinking about more data, more automation, more artificial intelligence, we're also creating more complexity to securing the environment. How are you and how is AWS thinking about cloud security as it relates, and how are you making it foundational to the serverless business?
Yes. So when I think about what do we do in serverless, and a lot of our customers come to serverless solutions because they see code as liability. And they look at what we do in serverless, where we're removing a lot of the kind of boilerplate code. We're taking responsibility for a lot of the patching and the management of environments. We provide guardrails and security best practices built into the services. And so they really look to us to help reduce their exposure to security vectors, and then build on top of us as a fundamental for them, so that they have all those best practices, and they kind of say, okay, you're thinking about it all the time, you're looking at it all the time, and you have engineers working on it all the time, which we do. Like that is what we do. And so we really do provide a really solid foundation for security best practices for customers building on our serverless products. And I think going back to the APIs certainly also help as well.
So what about the economics of it all, Holly? I mean, look, companies right now are in this really interesting inflection as it pertains to the economics and the business. We talk about cloud as an operating model, and then of course where everybody's assessing, right? What do I own? What do I consume? You got everyone going back and forth between subscriptions and licensing. I mean, obviously, I think we know where it's all going, but we've seen there's still a lot of economics being thought about. Serverless has, at least what we've seen from analyst perspective, some economic advantages. What are you and what are your customers sort of telling you about the TCO advantages that are being created by investing and going serverless?
Yeah, so over time, we have done a number of studies that show that serverless does have very good economics for TCO. And we really think of TCO as two things. Both the infrastructure costs, which of course can play really nicely, especially when you look at, we kind of take all the scaling up and scaling down. And, if you look at engineering systems, a lot of times you look at peaks and troughs.
Sure.
And so your economic model goes back to, yes, you pay during the peaks, but you're not paying during the troughs. And so that works really well. And then the other piece is the long-term operating costs. So your engineers, thinking about your engineers as an actual valuable resource. They can either go and build your business and build new applications, which is what we want them doing, or they can do a lot of the kind of the day in, day out operations, which is a lot of the value that we're trying to bring underneath the serverless operating model.
Yeah, it's compelling, and I want to read what you have done on TCO on serverless. It does beg the question, inside of AWS, right? You have you have VMs, you have containers, you have serverless. What is the adoption rate? Right? What percentage of whatever metric you want to come up with, your clients or workloads are serverless compared to VMs and containers?
I think the interesting one isn't outside of Amazon. I think it's the inside, and we have a lot of our AWS teams that build on serverless and on our serverless container offerings, as well as across Amazon. So we have very broad adoption inside. And if you look at our services, most of my services in my portfolio are launched with every new region, like pretty much all of my services are. And they're launched in every new region because customers demand them, but also because so many of our Amazon teams, our AWS teams build on them that they have to be there because we can't launch a region any other way.
Well, Holly, we definitely been enjoying this. We got a few minutes. I got a couple more things in me up my sleeve. So we're doing rapid fire. We're hitting you up with all the good questions. I want to talk about the ground truth of your business, and that's what your customers are saying and how they're benefiting. We've talked a little bit about adoption, and we've talked a little bit about TCO, talk about how it's all working. But what's like the anecdotal benefits, the biggest things when a customer says the biggest benefits that I've had? Okay, I'm a big retailer and I've moved more of my infrastructure to, I've moved more to serverless. I've moved when you talk to an insurance, financial services company, like what are they telling you are the big immediate and therefore longer benefits that they're able to realize?
Yeah, I think you'd say financial services. We have a lot of financial services customers that use our serverless products, and a lot of them are in the mindset of serverless first. And the reason why they are is because it is time to market. And they actually, internal organizations, large organizations, a lot of times they do have ways of measuring their agility and like how much their engineering teams are able to deliver over time. And it really ties back to that. It is the pace of innovation and the speed of delivery that they recognize as a real value add to their business, especially when they're trying to move fast and stay relevant in a changing environment.
We've had a great conversation on the past, right? We talked about 10-year anniversary, talked about what you're doing today. I'd like to talk about where you're going. And no, we're not asking you to spill your roadmap, but you're certainly welcome to if you'd like.
Cover your ears, comms people.
Yeah. So maybe give some insights on your North Star, maybe how you plan on differentiating, let's say, for generative AI, even though I know we're in the early stages of serverless and Gen AI. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah. So we will continue to build improvements in our products and support in generative AI. We see a lot of activity now in terms of model training and kicking the tires. What I personally am very excited about in terms of the serverless products is when those those tire kicking turns into real applications, because that's when serverless, the ability to build fast and do a lot of invention and proof of concepts and get things out there and working is going to really pay off.
Well, Holly, it's been a lot of fun, and we appreciate you letting us sort of hit you with question after question. You're leading a really large and important team there at AWS, and we look forward to following the progress. And guess what? You are the tip of the spear of a number of conversations that we are going to be having this year with a number of your team. So we're going to be talking about integration on AWS, disrupting legacy iPaaS. We're going to do that in April. We're going to be talking about serverless security in June. We're going to be doing a 10-year special on both ECS and Lambda, one middle of the year, one end of the year. And then we're going to have a special episode here to talk just about AI ML workloads. So what we basically did was we let you warm everything up. And then we're going to go deep on the next 5 topics, and we're going to do that throughout the year. So I just want to say thank you so much, Holly, for being a great guest and for letting Patrick and I hit you up with all of these questions and educating the community.
Thank you. It was my pleasure, and I can't wait for you to speak with the rest of the team, and hopefully all those conversations are enjoyable like this one's been.
For sure.
All right.
Thank you.
Well, Holly, thanks so much. And everyone out there, thank you so much for tuning in with us. Please hit that subscribe button. Join Patrick and I for all of the episodes of the 6.5 here with the AWS Serverless team. And of course, watch all of our episodes because we love you as part of our community. But for this episode, it's time for us to say goodbye. We'll see you all later.